Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Thanks for your patience as well. To my super chat, Paul Bartlett, already starting it off in Australia. Thank you so very much. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. Your super chat support is greatly appreciated. And let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting. Again, to my super chat, I cannot do this without you. Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. Always for your generosity and for your positivity, and the super chat support is greatly appreciated. So really quickly, I wanted to start off. The interesting thing is you have three primary contests tonight, where you had the incumbents vote to impeach Trump. These are Republicans. Now, according to the latest in the Michigan primary, Peter Meijer, the Republican who voted to impeach Trump, is losing to John Gibbs. So John Gibbs is ahead of Peter Meijer. You can see right there. Okay? So that's with 50% in. Now, this really doesn't mean much, because I started off with, if you look at, this is a Politico forecast, the House and Senate are going to go Republican, okay? The House, very much so, possibly by 40 points, 40 seats or more. The Trump Republicans will take over the House and the Senate, because Biden and Democrats have tanked the economy. Their policies are horrendous. We have a recession, real wages down 4.4%, household debt is $2 trillion higher than it was under Trump. Okay, that comes out to around $6,000 per individual, and well over $20,000 per family. And so, when you look, ladies and gentlemen, and you look at the House and Senate, what happens tonight really doesn't matter. It's like what happens tonight doesn't really matter for November, other than proving that Republicans that impeached Trump because of, there was no reason to impeach Trump, even though January was a terrible day. There was 2 years ago, yes, it was terrible. There was no reason to impeach Trump. He didn't commit a crime. That's why they haven't indicted him, because he did not commit a crime. He also didn't commit a crime within the ellipsis of a transcript. So they just wanted to impeach Trump for political gain and public relations. You can impeach, Biden will be impeached for criminal conduct. There's a difference. Criminal conduct pertaining to Hunter and 150 suspicious financial transactions and emails and voicemails. Sir Felix, thanks for showing my ticket, says no refund. Thank you so very much, Sir Felix. Thank you. Thank you, Sir Felix, for being a member of the channel. G. Corber, hello. And I voted hello. D-Rock, hello. Eric, everybody here. Jerry. Tammy, hello. JG, hello. And so, Sir Felix, thank you so very, very much. As always, Sir Felix and Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. So, it's really not gonna, it really doesn't matter. The two contests in Washington don't look good for the Republicans. I think, you might even get the Democrats winning the primary, which would be interesting. But it just shows that there's no point in siding with Democrats, because you're not here's the thing. If you're a blue state Republican and you think that you're voting against Trump because of his, out of integrity or out of character or principle, it's well, we had household median income at record highs under Trump. Okay? Let's see what's happening really quickly. We had household median income at record highs under Trump. We had real wages up under Trump. Okay? All right, so 54% of the precinct. So Joe Gibbs is still up over Peter Meijer. Peter Meijer is one of the Republicans who voted to impeach Trump. Does you no good, even if you're in a blue state. Does you no good at all. Like, you go to the Adam Kinzinger route. Adam Kinzinger's not even running for re-election. So it's like, what don't you like about Trump other than his personality? Because his policies worked. We had GDP that was up. We had poverty at record lows. We had poverty at 10%. Poverty is at 14 to 15% now. What is it that you would rather have poverty? How does that work? You would rather have poverty and debt and household median income and real wages down, but poverty increasing just because you don't like Trump? I mean, my God. And it's like, okay, you don't like, there are Trump voters in Washington also. So what is the point of taking a stand against Trump? What's the point? If he was convicted of a crime, he's convicted of a crime. You don't impeach him like you didn't push to impeach any Democrats all throughout that summer of that year. But here in Washington, this is bizarre. This is very bizarre. So you have you have Jaime Herrera Beutler losing to the Democrat Mary Perez. So the Democrat, I mean, it's like, what have you done for yourself? Jaime Herrera Beutler is losing. I mean, what was the point? What was the point? And Joe Kent is third. What was the point in voting to impeach Trump? Why? Democrats did it for public relations because they blamed it all on Trump. He shouldn't have had that day, but it wasn't his fault. He didn't tell anyone to commit a crime. It wasn't an overthrow of democracy. He didn't tell people, organize anything. He didn't know what people were doing. They say he's a buffoon and he's horrible and he doesn't know anything, and then they say he's organized a widespread plot to undermine. Then Democrats were funding the challenger, Joe Kent, and I believe, Lauren Culp. So Dan Newhouse might win, actually. But Doug White might. You have two Democrats who might actually defeat the incumbent Republicans. I mean, you've done nothing to, I mean, what have you done if you're a never Trump Republican in a blue state? You're not going to get, you're helping further terrible Democratic policies that literally cause poverty. Democrats pride themselves on protecting, impoverished and working class people. It's like they make things worse. Inflation is at 9.1%. What is it that Dan Newhouse and Jaime Herrera Beutler and Peter Meijer don't understand about 9.1% inflation? You voted for this when you voted to impeach Trump. You might think, well, I did it on principle. I wanted to impeach Trump to show that American democracy will stand. It's like, oh my God, we get it. You're in a blue state. You're in Michigan. You're in Washington. We get it. We get it. But here's the thing. When they're going to meddle in your primary, so you lack basic logic. You think for a second you're going to get positive media support. You're not going to get any positive media support. They're going to use you as a pawn. They're going to use you as a pawn to say, oh, look, even the Republicans can't stand Trump. You're going to alienate voters who support Trump within your district, and you've done yourself no good. Now you have two Democrats winning Republican primaries, and then they'll blame Trump, but really it's not Trump's fault. Okay, here's a news flash. They didn't lose. Jaded Vegas, hello. They didn't lose Georgia because of Trump. Any losses they had in the Senate were because of Paul Ryan, Jeff Sessions, Mitch McConnell, okay, and Mueller. And every Republican, Richard Burr, who investigated Trump, knowing he was innocent. You don't investigate a Republican president, side with Democrats and media, knowing very well he didn't work with the Kremlin. You do this to yourself. This is why I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I want a great economy. We have a terrible economy now. It's going to get much worse. And this is a Politico forecast from August 2nd, 2022. Leans Republican, Senate, likely Republican, obviously, House. And it's like, what is the point? I don't understand the point. You have this mindset that, like, there are never Trump Republicans who are, these people are basically dinosaurs. They belong in a museum. They're like artifacts. They're fossils. What on earth is the point? You know what's hilarious? I have my face right next to, okay, so let me just go ahead. I'll go right here. What is the point? What is the point? You have this, like, you have this mentality that, well, Trump is a bad person. Trump is a really bad person. And I'm going to vote against, I'm going to vote against Trump because I don't like his personality. Well, did you like unemployment at record lows with median income going up, not down 4.4%, with inflation at 2%, gas prices less than $3? Did you like being able to impose tariffs on China instead of being fearful when the Speaker of the House flies to Taipei for what reason we don't know, but like if there was a strategy, I would say, oh, that's good, but there's no strategy other than to get them to invade sooner or blockade sooner than later. So it's like, JG! So it's like I don't get it. Like, what don't you like? If you are a never Trump Republican, what are you looking for? Are you looking for another Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld? What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Because you are actually voting against your interests. Like, do you think Democrats love Joe Biden? Do you think they love him as a human being? Do you think that he's this fantastic, like, wonderful, like, you think that they're just so enamored with his integrity? They all know that Hunter was hooking him up with millions upon millions. It's literally within his own emails. You don't even have to, like, with Trump, it's like, you have, oh my God. You have, like, somebody said that he threw his dinner at the wall. Somebody said he threw his dinner at the wall. This is terrible. So, you have hearsay and gossip with Trump. That's all you have. With Hunter and Joe, you have 150 financial transactions deemed concerning and suspicious. And so, you have evidence that it can lead easily to criminal charges. The thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that you're not going to do yourselves any you're not going to do yourself any favors. You now have like two Democrats who might win the you have two Democrats who might win the Let's see. Hold on one second. So, Mary Perez, you have a Democrat who might win the open primary here. And the incumbent, this is what happens when the incumbent votes to impeach Trump. Okay? Jamie Beutler's losing to Mary Perez. Dan Newhouse barely defeating Doug White, a Democrat. Let's see. And this is a tough contest. John Gibbs is up. So John Gibbs is up by 2,000. Over 2,000 votes now. And Peter Meijer can't stand Trump. It's like, well, you've done yourself no good. What's the point? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like, you can't just, like, Eric! Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Mary Rabley, thank you. We all stopped talking about Paul's stock purchase ahead of the chip bill. Exactly. Great point. Great point. Great point. And his driving record. Eric, thank you so very much. Eric, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Mary, great point. Excellent point. Excellent point. That's right. Carrie Lake lost. Mary, thank you so very much. Mary Rabley, thank you. To my super chat, I cannot do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is like, what Democrats did is they backed John Gibbs. But see, that's another thing. What happened was Democrats are backing what they view as Trump Republicans. They elevated Trump in the DNC emails, and it was reported in Politico and other publications right before Clinton lost to Trump. And then they blamed the Kremlin, and they yelled and screamed and screeched for 6 years. And then they get after Trump for not accepting, while they didn't accept. They never accepted Trump defeating Clinton, ever. Not one day. Not one day. Not one day. They created this hysterical, apoplectic environment. And the one thing I'll say about Trump, my greatest critique, is that he does not communicate his achievements. He does not communicate his achievement. He doesn't communicate his achievements well. He needs to communicate his achievements. He has to communicate the fact that he had record low unemployment with real wages up. We have low unemployment now, but it took 2 years. Here's the thing. And Mary, thank you again. Eric, thank you. To my super chat, thank you so very much. Sir Felix, thank you again. Paul Bartlett, thank you as always. When you go ahead and you preside over record low unemployment with real wages going up, household median income hit a record under Trump. It hit a record under Trump. Okay? Household median income hit a record under Trump. And so, what is there not to like about that? Like, what is there not to like about? I don't understand. What on earth is there not to like? Can somebody tell me what there is that is good about high poverty and inflation? Why would you vote for a high poverty rate? Can somebody explain this to me? I don't get that, because that's what you're voting for. If you're voting against Trump, you're voting for Democrats, you're siding with media. Also, like, being a Republican against Trump is worse than it's basically like being a Democrat against mashed potato brains. But see, again, it's like the question is, how many Democrats are against Biden? They walk in lockstep, and you cannot, like, anybody who falls out of line is accused of working for another country. That's how they roll. That's how Democrats roll. When Republicans, like, you'll have Peter Meijer or you'll have other Republicans go up against Trump and they, oh man, I don't like his personality. It's like, well, what was the point of that? Yeah, it was a terrible day. You voted to impeach Trump. A terrible day. You don't like him. But now you've alienated voters in Michigan who do like him. What's the point? What's the point? Then you get Democrats to meddle in your primary, and then you're upset with... Then he says something like... Peter Meijer says something like, well, the only thing worse than what Trump has done to the Republican Party are Democrats who meddle in... Democrats who meddle in... this contest. It's like, well, that's what you almost asked for that. And this man, like, I believe, well, from what I understand, he's a very courageous man, Peter Meijer, a very good person, a veteran, a lot of courage and integrity and all that. And he's, probably a very good human being. But it's like, you could have stayed in office. You didn't have to impeach Trump for no reason other than public relations. Like, what was the point? What was the point? Yeah, it was a terrible, terrible, terrible day. We get it. It wasn't his fault. He didn't tell people what to do. He didn't tell people to commit crimes. And how many Democrats were impeached for bailing out protesters or demonstrators who, by the way, a couple of the demonstrators, or a handful, or a certain number, went on to commit truly despicable crimes. So you're doing yourself no good when you focus on one atrocity and ignore a whole summer of atrocities. And I agree with why people were protesting and demonstrating that summer. I agree. But I don't agree with $1 to $2 billion in property damage. So, it makes no sense. And you have 19 lives lost. So, I mean, this isn't that important. Tonight isn't really that important in the overall scheme of Peter Meijer might win. You might have two Democrats win in Washington. But see, the thing is, it does you no good, especially if you're in a blue state. If you're in a blue state and you want to, I don't know, you think that the average conservative is not a supporter of Trump, or, siding with Democrats isn't going to help you. First of all, the average person in a blue state who's conservative will vote for Trump more often than not. So that's a miscalculation right there. I mean, you have one incumbent in Washington losing, one incumbent in Michigan losing right now, one incumbent that might barely defeat a Democrat. I mean, it's like, you've done yourself no good. I can repeat. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand the mentality. You're not also there is absolutely nothing inherently good or virtuous in try to oppose him. What do you oppose? Low poverty? What do you oppose? The record highs in household median income? The Doha Agreement that reversed U.S. foreign policy and brought Americans home after 20 years? And Biden reluctantly did that. Reluctantly. It was a May 1st, 2021 withdrawal. And he went past the date to withdraw. I don't Trump was a great president. Okay? He lost the media battle. Towards the end of his presidency, he lost the media battle. So, he lost the media battle. That's for sure. He definitely lost the media battle. But he did not have a lot of people who were on his side at the end of his presidency. He just didn't. And you had a Republican Party that did themselves in. You can't investigate Trump based on a dossier that Democrats purchased. Okay? But Richard Burr had an insider trading controversy, and guess what? Nothing really, nothing came out of it. So there you go. You've had Republicans who've had insider trading issues, and they played ball with Democrats, and coincidentally, nothing, really no investigation. So isn't that interesting? And you're going to have, ladies and gentlemen, like, unfortunately, this economy is going to absolutely tank. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. You have a third quarter. The third quarter is going to be negative also. Okay, the third quarter is going to be negative also. So you have to ask yourself, if Republicans are barely favored now in the Senate, and they are definitely favored in the House, the landscape is going to be very different going into November. Okay? And so there is no Republican Party without Trump. There is no. It's the Republicans that don't side with Trump are ruining their own political party. The Republicans that don't side with Trump are just siding with Democrats and accepting high poverty rates. Poverty is at 14%. It was at 10%, the lowest on record since 1959, under Trump in 2019. And this is something that people, like, we have to actually, there is no Republican Party without Trump. Trump is the Republican Party. I wouldn't care if Republicans, like, I wouldn't care what Republicans did if Trump wasn't completely reshaping the political party into a populist political party, one that opposes never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts and wars. So, and I mean, like, Kerry Lake lost, but you have to also understand the Republican Party in Arizona and Georgia they're probably very different from the Republican Party in Florida. So there are certain, or Florida or Texas, okay? You have different Republican parties in different states, okay? But you can look right now. I mean, the interesting thing is, ladies and gentlemen, if you look, let's see here. Okay. Layoffs. Major U.S. metal manufacturers announced significant round of layoffs. Okay. So it's happening not just in technology. We are looking at more layoffs, people. People are, people are losing their jobs. People are losing their jobs now. And the economy is shrinking. The economy is shrinking. A major metal manufacturer in the U.S. announced Tuesday a new round of layoffs set to begin next month. Oracle, layoffs, job cuts. Layoffs sweeping the U.S. Now, it's primarily in tech, but it'll hit other industries. So, More than 32,000 tech workers have been laid off in 2022. Here's the thing, and I don't want to be this, I don't want to act like morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats, but most of these tech workers, you think they voted Republican, or you think they voted for Trump or Biden? They would still have most of these people would still have their jobs if Trump was in office. Okay? The economy would not have issues with energy or inflation, which the reason we have such an issue with energy is because of what Biden did with oil and gas when he first came into office. His policies directly correlated to oil and gas, to inflation. Oil and gas is a huge part of inflation. When oil and gas prices are up, and they're up because of Biden's policies, that's why he was sued by oil and gas associations. That's why he has to flood strategic petroleum reserves into the U.S., and now he's being sued by environmental groups. But when oil and gas is up, suddenly food prices are up because, for example, diesel fuel transports all the food that we get from farms or co-packers to supermarkets. And when diesel fuel goes up in price, you're paying more for food at the supermarket. So the economy is shrinking. And if you look tech industry, massive 2022 layoffs, most of the tech industry, you could say, voted against Trump. You could definitely say, you could definitely say that they voted against their interests. Okay, they wouldn't be laying off people in the tech sector if Trump was in office, because the economy would be growing. The economy would be growing just like it was growing when he was in the Oval Office. Okay, here's one thing Trump would have done. He wouldn't have an obsession with combating climate change. Even if you think that's important, you don't do that immediately after you tanked the U.S. economy. Okay, you don't do that immediately after you tank the U.S. economy. Let's see. So John Gibbs is going to probably win. See, again, I don't understand. What was the point? He could have easily won. Peter Meijer could have easily won had he just not impeached Trump. And the impeachment of Trump a week before, or like days before he was leaving, was pure malice on the part of D.C. Well, he wasn't. If it would be different if he was convicted or indicted of something, then I would have nothing to say. If you want to impeach a president who's indicted, then fine. If he organized an attempt to overthrow a democracy, then fine. But he wasn't. The Federal Bureau of Investigation cleared him immediately because guess what? He didn't do anything criminal. It's not a crime to have a demonstration, but it is a crime if you organize something. He didn't organize any criminal acts. So there you go. We'll have a recession going into the third quarter. If you vote Democrat, you're voting for a prolonged recession. You're voting for a prolonged recession. And you raise taxes. Okay, this is the thing. If you want to raise taxes or combat climate change, do so in a good economy. You want to raise interest rates, do so in a good economy. Don't engage in these flawed, absurd policies. Robert, hello. Don't engage in these absurd policies when you're just getting out of a financial catastrophe. You're just getting out of a financial catastrophe. By the way, if you're watching this channel for the first time, hit subscribe to this channel. Be here tomorrow, every day at 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. on this channel. I will have, ladies and gentlemen, segments every morning, 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. on this channel. So be here. And also, I have a very important segment on the stock market crash channel today, and I will have segments later tonight on the Nuclear Confrontation channel. So I have 3 channels. Subscribe to both. If you want to go to atragoodman.com, you can read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications. Read my article in The Federalist predicting the terrible stock market crash we've seen and the terrible economy. I wrote that was published in October of 2021. And if you watch the playlist on this channel, I was talking about all of this in 2021. She voted to impeach Trump. Now Representative Herrera Beutler tries to navigate a tough primary. Well, let's see. She lost to the Democrat. Okay? Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, no, sorry. So, no, wait. So I think they both won? Is that how it works? It says lead in a race with 2 people who won. So, let's see here. Let's see. But the Democrat got more votes. Okay, gotcha. So why am I, led her far-right challengers. Okay, she defeated the Republicans. Sorry, I'm reading it wrong. She defeated the Republicans. So did Dan Newhouse, who were supported by. She and Dan Newhouse defeated Republicans, or are defeating Republicans backed by Trump. However, Peter Meijer is losing to John Gibbs. So let's see here. That is a pretty high-profile one in Michigan. Gibbs holds narrow lead over Meijer in Michigan GOP race for Congress. John Gibbs, the Trump-endorsed challenger, held a lead in the nationally watched results. All right, so he's up now by almost 3,000. Trump loyalists. I love that they don't say Biden loyalists. We're the Biden loyalists. The man mashed potato brains never even made Iowa. So, does he have loyalists? I mean, he's president. Where are the Biden loyalists? People, don't worry about Kari Lake in Arizona, my God. Don't worry about that. That was a race. That was a contest for governor in a state with a peculiar Republican Party. But really, the big contest right now is John Gibbs. John Gibbs wins. That's huge. The 2 Washington Republicans, like, okay, well, they barely held off. Not really barely. There's a lot of other. I guess they did all right. But I mean, the really big contest is Gibbs Meijer, and and like the Democrat got more votes. Mary Perez got more votes than Jaime Herrera Beutler. So it's like, anyway, it really, like, the interesting thing is that Kevin Kevin Duder, thank you. Kevin, thank you so very, very much. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Kevin. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, Kevin. Greatly appreciated. Thank you for becoming a member of this channel. He is like a 135. He's like 111, something like that, and 13. President-elect Pressure, thank you. Long live D.A. King, thank you. Long live D.A. King. Thank you so very much. President-elect Pressure 609. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Long live D.A. King. President-elect Pressure, thank you so very, very much. I appreciate your support greatly. I appreciate your support greatly. At the end of the day, you're going to have let's see. Michigan Congressman slams Democrats for meddling in his primary. But see, here's the thing. You vote alongside Democrats, they're not going to help you, they're going to hurt you. You think that, like, Mitt Romney, for example, thinks that, does he truly think that Democrats and media love him? They can't stand him. This is a new era in America, a completely different era in American politics. If Mitt Romney was running instead of Trump, they would vilify and demonize Mitt Romney. So the Democrats are spending money in Republican primary, which is kind of hilarious. Let's see. So let's see here. If you look, inflation, top economists say the Democrats' healthcare and climate package will put downward pressure on inflation. There was one Wharton School of Business study that said that it would actually increase inflation, which obviously makes sense. 126 liberal Democrats who are also happen to be economists wrote a letter. Fantastic. This is what they always do. The letter was signed by key economists, including former Clinton Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin. Okay. Inflation. So here, thank you, President-elect Pressure. Thank you, Robert John. When this old Texas boy, HA, you're the best. Thank you, Robert. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you, Robert. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. President-elect, thank you. Again. So, Wharton report finds Biden's Inflation Reduction Act won't reduce inflation. Gee. $433 billion in new spending on climate. What does that even mean? If you spend $1 trillion combating climate change, so then, like, how do you then decipher if you've actually spent the money well, other than just making, like, activists happy? Can you gauge? Can you guarantee that you've added more time on this planet for human beings? How many days, how many hours, how many seconds have you added in terms of life on this earth? And if you can't give an exact number, what's the point? So because you feel good, because a whole bunch of scientists that agree with a certain policy agenda feel good, there's no way to evaluate. There's no way to categorically evaluate. An independent analysis of President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. This is hilarious. The Penn-Wharton budget model found that the proposal, which includes $433 billion in new spending on climate, would very slightly increase inflation until 2024 and decrease inflation thereafter. It's like, what? And then decrease inflation thereafter. By 2024, we'll be lucky if we're not in a prolonged recession flirting with a depression. These points estimate are statistically indistinguishable from zero, therefore indicating low confidence that the legislation will have any impact on inflation. It's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. Inflation is getting worse, and then you don't spend more money to combat inflation unless, and thank you again, President-elect, thank you. You don't spend more money unless you're growing the economy. Paul Bartlett, thank you again. Sir Felix, thank you. Manchin Schumer spending bill will have indistinguishable effect on inflation. Penn Wharton. So it's like, what are they doing? Makes no sense. Lord Almighty. Makes no sense at all. Democrats are pitching their newest health and climate spending bill as an inflation fighting measure. They keep on passing legislation and spending more money, and it's like, if it grows the economy, great. If it doesn't grow the economy, you're not going to fight inflation. These are the same people who are like, oh, the deficit, the debt, Trump's tax cuts. Like, the tax cuts worked. Poverty decreased. Poverty's increased now. Trump's policies compared to Democratic policies, look at the results. You'd have to be a complete imbecile not to look at the results and say, okay, Trump's policies were much better. You might not like Trump, but you can look. Poverty at a high rate is worse than poverty at all-time lows. Okay? Paul, thank you. Joey, hello. So, inflation's going to go up because oil prices will go up. Oil prices will continue to go up. So, Forbes, will the $670 billion Inflation Reduction Act... So it's like, what's the Inflation Reduction Act? Creation of 15% corporate minimum... So it's like you're increasing taxes on corporations, knowing very well they're going to take it out on employers and the consumer. So you've done nothing there. You've made things worse. Prescription drug price reform, that could be good. Oh, that's good. That's good. Make more people, okay. Closure of that's okay. Energy security and climate change investments. Numerous investments in climate protection. Whatever that means. That's fantastic. Mansion bill would increase. Mansion back bill would increase inflation through 2024. We estimate that the Inflation Reduction Act will produce a small increase in inflation. And then for these models, like the best case scenario is that things don't get worse. If things get worse, the Sir Felix, the Employment Reduction Act, the GDP Reduction Act, the Recession Prolonging Act of 2022. We passed the Depression Initiation Act and the Recession Prolonging Act. You can't say we didn't do anything. You can't say we didn't do anything to help people. They're hilarious. They are absolutely hilarious. It's like, would have no impact on GDP. So it won't grow. An increase of 0.2% GDP by 2050. But these models are based also on if things don't get worse. So if things don't get worse, Robert, thank you again. Sir Felix, thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's, inflation. Inflation rate tops 10%. 7 metro areas, including Miami, see Phoenix, Baltimore suffer food spikes. At least Trump isn't tweeting. So let's see. U.S. inflation surges 10%, but latest report doesn't include gas. Wow, but that's months back. Wholesale inflation. Okay, what is wholesale inflation now? 11.3%. Wholesale inflation accelerated in June to 11.3%. So that's a really good cartoon. So things are getting worse, not better. They're getting much worse. They're not getting better. So let's see here. So John Gibbs is almost certainly going to win. And hopefully he wins the House seat, in which Democrats will then do this to themselves. So Democrats will actually will have, in their attempt at trying to get what they consider a person they consider too extreme, somebody who defeats them just like Trump did in 2016. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to look forward to in terms of November. November is going to be very important, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to have Politico. You look, ladies and gentlemen, and if you look, and it's like, this is what you have to focus on. This is all you have to focus on, in addition to the investigations into Hunter for like obvious criminal activity. With Trump, they're trying desperately to find something. They've convinced themselves that Trump is just like, Hillary and Bill and Hunter. It's like, that's not the case. They cannot find a crime with Trump. And yes, and in Michigan, the Trump Republican won. In Washington, the Trump Republicans did not win. Okay, and so Kerry Lake did not win in Arizona. It doesn't mean that this has no bearing on the House and the Senate. The House and the Senate will go Trump Republican. So, in large part, unfortunately, because the economy is going to get worse. Much worse. Much, much worse. We'll end this in 3 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a full hour. But, oh my God. Spectrumwitz, I didn't see that. Oh my God. Oh no. I loved. Oh my God. Wow. Vin Scully passed away. He was one of the most wonderful, beautiful, amazing people in sports history, obviously in baseball, Dodger history. He was a legend. My God. That's terrible. 94 years old. He was an icon. We've lost an icon, Dodger president said via statement. So he was an absolute icon. The great Vin Scully. God bless his family. He was just the most wonderful, sweetest, most amazing announcer, part of baseball history, obviously. JG, yeah. A huge part of baseball history, American history, U.S. history. I mean, it's like, I loved listening to him my whole life. Growing up, listening to the Dodgers. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible thing. But he was a truly amazing, talented, wonderful soul, and I think that the country was really blessed, and baseball was fortunate and very blessed for decades to have Vince Scully announce some of the greatest moments in Major League Baseball history, and obviously all those years with the Dodgers. He will be missed forever. He is a legend. Vince Scully was a legend, an icon, a truly, truly wonderful, 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 beautiful human being. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it at that. Some terrible news, but he was a true giant, a legend, an icon in not just baseball, but also American history. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. Have a great evening. I will see you tomorrow. Please be here on this channel at 8.